Hello, this is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. Next exercise, that's gonna be number 5 in this series meant to remediate confusions of self-identity and lack of perception, body perception or identification of these as own, and also a perception that one is accompanied when one is not. The exercise consists of realization when that prior video that establishes on mind content who are for a woman rivals for a lifelong partner and father of her children, or if such is impossible, for a lifelong partner in mutual adoration, for wanting such the most out of all of the creatures of the universe, and for men who are maidens, who are likeliest in love and adoration for such person's masculinity to correspond in the same degree of magnitude of desire to become a mother and love for that person, then corresponding in lifelong devotion and not only effortless but wished for most in the world fidelity, because of that person being the most interesting and the most attractive of all existing creatures and activities. Such is basis for the fidelity, ladies and gentlemen. And the next exercise is called Hexa method. Hexa method, derived from number 6, is a method to establish components necessary in self to be present and in person also in corroboration with the other person, the opposite gender suitor for a lady and maiden for a gentleman, a presence of such in the same degree of intensity as well as in the same occurrence or magnitude in time during the day and during the eternal times. And so there are 3 components. First, to determine emotional state. There are 3, and so 3 for self, and then the same 3 for the others, which 3 plus 3 add to 6 and make for happy wedding, church vows and sacred love and children, if possible. Most wanting children is what matters, and then lifelong sexual love that leads to as derivative of such love for these children, and also leads to capacity to allow these children to live, and in being loved also come back when they want to visit, pursue their own partners, and have multitude of those children even if possible. Hexa method includes selfish love as number 1, selfless love as number 2, and enchantment as number 3. Selfish love is love that is derived from capacity to choose over all of preferred activities and all of other persons and creatures existed in the universe, to determine that the other is the most important in a non-voluntary way to pursue when at risk of dying or in harm or less provided than self or others, especially others of the same as that person gender towards self, to distinguish that person. Selfish love is also realization of such in the other person and acceptance, when one is a female, of such provisions from that person, and not for non-pursuit of that relationship. Acceptance is a token of love and then leads to a gathering of marital goods for opposite gender person and self and children, when that sexual life takes place and love takes place, and in life of serious death threats poses obstacle to work and to other activities because they become less preferred simply for 2. That number 2 leads us to selfless love. Selfless love creates creates a basis of pursuit of a person in initial adoration, adulation of that person because of that person's goodness towards all of creatures, and that person's empathy and hard work, and also that person's a capacity to be about it, non-expecting reciprocity, be it doing such to gain life partner, a specific one, and not opposing to other person's activities, but knowing that such in another person leaves space for self for personal pursuits, while lack of such in the other person makes one overwhelmed, and that is in having funds or not having funds, one has to work. Second person has to correspond in same degree of altruism and goodness towards others, including that person, and work as such to make that love mutual and mutual respect, and align in work and in interest and in emotions and values, so that persons actually relieve one another from the pursuits when these are a lot, and are capable of doing such in an area in the most efficient, effortless way. The third one is enchantment, and enchantment is associated with perception of beauty of that person of opposite gender as unlike anybody else, anything in this universe, the most beautiful of paintings, most attractive of all persons, falls short, and that beauty and those characteristics are associated with the two first ones: goodness of that person that yielded that wonderful body, and second one, knowing who that person truly loves and desires and wants to have children therefore with the most, as opposed to all others, and who in magnitude corresponds that person in love and desire and pursuit of that person's children and their well-being in own goodness. And that enchantment makes from any person any unique, wonderfully beautiful individual, undescribable in words often, because of that beauty. And the difference in such in romantic love is that beauty and adoration in pursuit of nesting, of provision for one another, courting when that is a gentleman of a maiden to win over her love and her desire, not humiliating by offensive, degrading type of sexuality or such insinuations, not blaming her when pursued or demeaned by others, especially men. And that is also when the realization has to be that the enchantment has to be mutual. So also the self is source of in speech, in actions, in pursuit of worship of self, of such enchantment in that person. And that is derived from personal goodness and in a non-assumption of desire. Because prior to that, the desire is offensive. That's why people make pictures, paint photos, write poems to adore and allure that person by declaration of how that person, unlike all others, perceives one specific, unique individual, and then vice versa. And with that, persons win over a life partner. Art is not merely for the sake of skill or methodology. When it is truly effective, it brings to that person personal happiness in winning over assertion and awareness of own love and desire adoration of that person, and love and adoration of that person's courage and capacity to distinguish one above all others. So again, selfish love, selfless love, and enchantment that leads to physical infatuation and touch and wanting to be together in utmost absence of nothing but intimacy and sweetness when person is at most vulnerable, of being with that person for life, because that beauty never ends in life imprints. And this needs to be, when we establish that mind content as rivals or maidens, for each depending on gender, needs to be corroborated in courting or in rituals, mating rituals, dating, in assurance that the other person knows if it's a gentleman that he has a chance to win over, and if it's a lady that that person actually knows that in perception of that man there is no other who loves and who desires that person to greatest of magnitudes and wishes to become the best, to prove self as the best of father candidates in goodness, and the best in desire of lovers to assure multitude of children and also emancipation of those children afterwards. And this is a mature method to determine who in one of these three components falls short of self, or to the greatest of honesty of self and analysis, one falls short of in comparison to the other person, and striving for reciprocity in intensity and not blaming or harming to obtain such makes a difference between a person who is loved, adored and desired, and a person who accumulates rejection and towards the rejection, and how to then know who it is that in mind content disappears progressively and becomes non-rival. All person that when we pursue well-being of that person and assure that that person is capable being a female, in knowledge that self, to the best of self's knowledge, loves and desires that person, if that is a dignified gentleman, will, when capable, in timely manner, court or pursue a female, and if not, when non-corresponding and being capable, it is proven so, in such desire and love, it is not dignified to have such person as an equal in maturity or as an equal in love and pursuit of children, and that person for self then disappears from mind content, and that is determined as personal rejection, and it then is comparative to all others without settling. Non-aspiring person who assumes that little is good enough because the other one failed is a loser. And there are millions, trillions of persons worldwide to not to have forged celibacy. Forged celibacy is one that is forced because of immaturity, social immaturity for a female of men who fail at courting to win over ideal life partner, do not pursue and expect such from women, or blame and harm as source of pursuit, and hoping for such love and being considered as father of children, when goodness, inherent goodness, is necessary in such men, masculinity to defend, not harm, to be considered as such, and also in females, immaturity to pursue love of many men as a personal source of vanity and art and other things, which is always, remember ladies, in absence of pursuit, simply remediation to have an income of a man who is, well, sometimes harmed, and if not, not educate.